Sister Wives turmoil becomes worse after a shocking confession on Instagram. Season 19 of Sister Wives is ended, but the drama isn't over yet. A new revelation on Instagram has messed up the plot that was told in Season 1 and has also helped to debunk some of the misconceptions that the show has told over the years. Christine Brown-Woolley, Kody Brown's third spiritual wife, talked about how she felt about the experience in a new Instagram post. People saw her in a recording booth putting down the audio for her new book, Sister Wife, a memoir of faith, family, and finding freedom. She read a part of her book that told the story of when she was in labor with her daughter Truly Brown in Season 1. Kody had other things to do instead of rushing to the hospital to be with his wife. Christine said, "The camera crew followed Kody that day, too. He hurried home to Robin Brown." The occurrence occurred during the 4th episode of the first season of Sister Wives titled Third Wife in Labor. The timing of Kody's visit to Robin, especially during Christine's labor, was a topic of disagreement and criticism from viewers. Fans of Sister Wives were moved by the couple's attempt to hide their kiss before they got married. As Kody left to go back to Christine, who was in labor at the hospital, Robin tried to close the door quietly behind them, but not fast enough to stop the cameras from catching their kiss. Robin later denied any claims that the couple acted inappropriately before they got married during the Season 19 one-on-one episodes. But the sun rose over Flagstaff, casting golden streaks across the hills and rooftops. Tension was heavy in the air, even before the morning coffee was brewed. Episode 9 opened with Mary quietly packing her overnight bag. Her eyes were puffy from a sleepless night. In a confessional, she said softly, "Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you have to walk away to save yourself." Cut to Janelle strolling on the ground where they had previously dreamed of building a great community house. The camera focused on her boots as they crunched over gravel. "We tried to build a life together, but we couldn't even build a home," she said with a half laugh and half sigh. "Now I'm building my own path." Flashback montage. A brief series of moments from earlier episodes, Kody arguing with Christine, Robin crying, Janelle standing her ground, and Mary's lonely porch scene. A voiceover said, "The gaps have turned into canyons. This family is not what it used to be." Episode 9 shows the emotional turning point that none of them saw coming. Robin was getting ready for a family dinner that only 2 wives consented to go to. She was being too picky, laying the table with Kody's favorite wine glasses and exquisite china. "I just want us to feel like a family again," she said. "I want them to remember the love." Kody showed in late and angry. His hair was messy and his voice was sharp. "I'm tired of being blamed for everything," he said in a confession. "They all chose distance. I'm just reacting to it." Christine, on the other hand, appeared in Utah over a video connection. Her background was bright and colorful, and her kids were laughing. "I've never felt more free," she said. "I don't need to be in that world anymore." The meal in Flagstaff ended in pandemonium. Janelle confronted Kody about not being there for her and not being emotionally supportive. "You come in here expecting loyalty but give none," she said. "I deserve more." Mary got up and shook a little. "I won't keep sitting in rooms where I'm not seen." She departed before supper was served. The last part of the confessional montage. Robin, "I wanted to fix this, but maybe I was just holding on to ghosts." Kody, "They don't know how heavy my load is." Janelle, "It's not just about him. It's about all of us choosing what we need." Mary, "I don't know what the next chapter is, but I know it's not here." As the episode came to an end, a storm rolled in over the mountains, and the 4 distinct houses, one family, looked like parts of a puzzle that no longer fit together. On the screen. Next time on Sister Wives, is it possible to forgive in the middle of the ruins? Or is this really the end? But Christine sat on the back porch of her Flagstaff home, staring into the distance. The wind was cold, and the trees whispered. Her fingers shook a little as she held a warm mug of tea. The last few months had been full of chaos. Leaving Kody had torn the family apart like a storm. But today wasn't about pain, it was about healing. Janelle asked all the wives, both past and present, to come to her new house for a private event. She dubbed it a circle of support. There were no cameras or producers, just the women talking to each other. Mary hesitated at first, and so did Robin. Their wounds were still fresh, and the silence between them had grown into a canyon. But after weeks of thinking about it, they all knew one thing. They couldn't ignore their shared history. They were forever bound, not by a man, but by their journeys. The air was dense with unspoken messages as the women arrived one by one. Christine was already there, helping Janelle set up the patio with lights and blankets. Mary came in next, her eyes wary but not cruel. Robin was the last to come, and her steps were hesitant. "Thank you all for coming," Janelle said in a calm but forceful voice. "We've all been through a lot of hell, but I think it's time we find a way to help each other, even if we're not living the same life anymore." Christine nodded and took a drink of her tea. "I was angry for so long. I blamed Cody, Robin, and this whole way of life. But now that I've had some time to think about it, I see it differently. We were all just trying to stay alive." Robin blinked quickly, holding back tears. "I never wanted to be the reason the family fell apart. I didn't know how to fix it, and I still don't." Mary spoke out, which shocked everyone. Maybe it wasn't about fixing it. Maybe it was about facing the truth. Cody made a different choice. We all had to make our own choice. The circle was quiet. For the first time in years, there were no accusations, no shouting, and no nasty words. Just honesty. Janelle started a fire in the pit and gave everyone slips of paper. "Write down what you want to let go of: guilt, anger, disappointment, whatever is stopping you from healing. Then we'll burn it." They wrote one at a time, without saying a word. Christine wrote blame. Mary wrote abandonment. Robin hesitated, then wrote fear, and Janelle wrote rage. They threw the slips into the fire. As the flames burned the paper, something else rose up, a weight they had all been carrying for too long. "Can we be sisters again, even if we're not sister wives anymore?" Robin whispered. Christine glanced at her with wet but kind eyes. "Let's try." Mary extended out her palm to Robin, then to Christine and Janelle. The ladies slowly created a circle that was stronger, wiser, scarred, but not broken. Christine had a family brunch at her Utah home months later. Janelle came for grandkids. Mary brought her renowned banana bread, and Robin brought handcrafted gifts. Cody wasn't invited, and no one appeared to care. This was their fresh beginning. They weren't bound by marriage or custom, but by respect, forgiveness, and help. It's not always about who you share a husband with. Sometimes it's about who is there for you when things go wrong. But the cameras rolled for the exclusive Sister Wives Tell All special on a sunny afternoon in Flagstaff. The wives had agreed to sit down for one of the most emotionally raw and honest interviews they had ever done, even though they were nervous about it. The topic? Time. More specifically, how Cody divided it or didn't. Robin, Mary, Janelle, and Christine sat in a half-circle across from the host. They all anxiously fidgeted with their hands and looked at each other with a mix of anxiety, anguish, and tired unity. Marla Quinn, the host, leaned forward and said in a calm but penetrating voice, "Let's talk about the jealousy, the longing, and the unspoken competition for Cody's time that no one has really said out loud." Christine was the first to talk. She smiled a little, but it was almost sour. "I used to count the days," she added. "I had a calendar. I knew if Cody stayed one more night with Robin, it killed me." Janelle nodded slowly. "It wasn't just jealousy. It was loneliness," she said. "He would come over, check in, talk about logistics with the kids, maybe dinner, and then he would leave. But I would hear about how he spent hours with Robin watching movies and talking about books, things he never did with me anymore." Mary, who had been quiet until now, finally looked up. "For me," she continued, her voice shaking a little, "it wasn't about time. It was about being seen. I could be in a room with Cody and feel like I didn't exist. Robin had his heart. The rest of us had leftovers." For a time, there was silence. Even Robin, who usually stayed quiet during fights, looked like she was about to cry. "I didn't ask for more time," she murmured softly, "but it was given to me. I begged Cody to be fair. I didn't want to be the reason the family broke up, but I became the symbol of the imbalance. As Marla asked the most important question, the camera zoomed in. Did you ever talk to Cody about how jealous you were? Christine chuckled softly. All the time. And he would always say, well, you chose this life. He was right. We did choose it. But we didn't choose to be forgotten. Janelle said, what hurt the most was how he brushed it off, as if our feelings were just an annoyance. Cody himself then arrived onto the set through the entrance, looking serious. He sat next to the women, but he was clearly not interested in anyone but Robin. I heard what you said, he continued. And I know I failed at balance. But the truth is, I stopped trying when I thought the love was gone. Mary yelled, no, Cody. You stopped loving us, and then blamed us for not loving you back. Robin gazed at him with tears in her eyes. You gave me time, but not peace. You turned your back on the others and built a wall between us. I was stuck on the other side. The host looked around at the sad faces. So, what's next for all of you? Christine was the first to stand up. I've already left. I enjoyed being alone. I'll never fight for scraps of attention again. Janelle nodded and said, same. I'm focused on my kids, my business, and myself. Mary sighed heavily and said, I don't know yet. But I know I deserve more than polite silence and ghost time. Robin, who was always the silent anchor, murmured, I don't want to be the last one standing if it means being alone. The screen went black with a last line as the credits rolled. Neglect was the poison, not jealousy. And that's how the Sister Wives Tell All episode ended. Not with closure, but with truth. But the soft desert breeze blew through the open windows of Mary's Flagstaff house as she sat quietly on the couch, holding a mug of herbal tea. The mug's warmth was a contrast to the coldness in her chest. She was staring out at the horizon, but her mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts. Mariah, her daughter, had called from Utah earlier that morning. The voice on the other end was full with excitement, doubt, and passion. Mariah told her mom, Aubrey and I have decided to move to Portland. We're starting a new life, a new chapter, and we're thinking about adopting. Mary had stopped. She had known this was going to happen. Mariah had hinted at the move previously, but the thought of her daughter, her only child, moving farther away and taking steps deeper into adulthood made her heart hurt. That's great, Mary eventually remarked. I'm really proud of you. Now, hours later, the news was starting to sink in. Mary asked Janelle to come over for coffee later that day. They had had some unpleasant times in the past, but time had made their connection better, and Janelle was now someone Mary could trust when her heart was full. Mary's voice broke a little as she continued. She's growing up. I mean, she has grown up. She's living her truth and making brave choices. I should be happy. You are happy, Janelle said softly. But it's okay to be sad about what's changing. Being a mom means letting go over and over again. Mary nodded slowly. She was everything to me for so long. Now that she's making her own world, I don't know where I fit in anymore. Janelle put a soothing hand on her shoulder and said, Your place is where it's always been, being her mom. But now it's time to be Mary too, not just Mariah's mom. What do you want next? Mary sat at her desk that night and looked at an open journal. She started to write. Mariah told me today that she is becoming a mother in her own way. She is building her family with love and courage. I am proud, afraid, hurting, and rejoicing all at once. Maybe that's what being a mother truly means. She stopped for a moment and then went on. I've been trying to make room for everyone in this family for so long. But maybe now it's time to make room for me and my dreams. I don't know what that looks like, but I want to find out. In the weeks that followed, Mary went to Utah to help Mariah and Aubrey pack. There were tears, laughter, and hugs that lasted a little longer than normal. When they said farewell at the airport, Mariah told her mother, You gave me wings, Mom. Now it's your turn to fly too. Mary smiled, even though she was crying. I will. I promise. The trip back to Flagstaff seemed different. It wasn't lonelier. It was full of possibilities. For the first time in a long time, Mary wasn't just a mother or a sister wife. She was just Mary, a woman on the edge of her next great chapter. But Cody and Mary Brown had been emotionally distant for years, had silent dinners, and felt anguish that they didn't talk about. But something had changed. It started quietly, like most big things do. One clear autumn morning in Flagstaff, Mary got a text from Cody that said, "Do you want to go for coffee? Just talk. No pressure." Mary looked at her phone for a moment. She wanted to ignore it. She had tried for years to get back in touch with Cody, but every time she did, she hit a wall. But something about his message felt different. Honest. Open. She said, "Yes." Tomorrow? The next day, they sat in a small table at a quiet coffee shop. Cody looked exhausted, but he was more open than she had seen him in years. He continued softly, "I've been thinking a lot about where we went wrong and how I pushed you away." Mary's heart raced. She muttered, "And I've been thinking about how I held on too tightly when I should have just let us breathe." They chatted for hours about the early years of their marriage, the terrible loneliness Mary felt when she saw him fall in love with other people, the rage Cody had hidden over their prior misunderstandings, and the therapy sessions they never had but undoubtedly needed. Cody started coming around more in the weeks that followed. Not in a big, romantic way, but in tiny, important ways. He went on walks with her, prepared supper with her, and they laughed for the first time in years. Even Robin could see the difference. Robin told Mary one night, "I don't know what's going on with you two, but it's nice. I haven't seen that spark in a long time." Christine and Janelle were also astonished, but they were silent and supportive. For the first time in a long time, the Brown family didn't seem broken. There was a sense of healing in the air. Cody and Mary were outside her house one night as the sun set over the Arizona desert. He looked at her with sincere eyes and said, "I'm not promising everything will go back to how it was, but I'm here now. And I want to be better. For you. For us." Mary's eyes filled with tears. "That's all I ever wanted, to be seen. To matter to you." He grasped her hand softly and said, "You always mattered, Mary. I just forgot how to show it." They still had a long way to go. They would still have to have painful conversations and deal with past wounds. But for the first time in years, they were doing it together. That made all the difference.